Yeah, you make a good point. Like, yes, technically it could be better if we hire someone with experience, but man, you can't put a price tag on attitude, someone that's a go-getter, someone that's driven. You've got to have that. So that trumps experience any day in my book.
I agree. And the last thing that I'll put into that is the real hunger to learn.
Right.
I love people who love to learn. And Colin was very much like that.
Hey. Welcome to Loan Officer Growth Podcast, the podcast that helps loan officers grow their business, increase their success, and have more freedom. Awesome. Have Andreas Nagy is here with us. Andreas is a loan officer in Florida. He's from California, does business in California and Florida, right?
Yep.
And well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started, Andreas?
Oh, in the business? Well, yeah, 20 years ago, actually, March, my brother and I was invited by a friend of mine to get in the business. And that was the good old days, right? The 2003 where everyone could get a loan. So
Yes.
it was jamming. And my brother and I were kind of crazy 20-year-olds. So, we're mid-20s, whatever, late 20s. And we decided, well, let's just start our own thing because we weren't really in agreement with how everything was going down. So my brother and I started our own business, kind of went out on a limb and did it, which was really crazy. And of course, the 08 and 09 crash happened. So we had a big operation. I'd say big for us, 50 to 100 agents at any time underneath us, and
Right.
15,000 square foot office in downtown San Francisco. So it was a pretty big deal. And of course, we had everything tied in with real estate, everything. And so that just all crashed in 2008, of course. So we lost everything. Ironically, we decided, what are we really good at? We're good at clients. We're good at talking with people and getting people jamming with loans. So we decided, all right, well, let's focus on what we're really good at. And we just went home and started doing loans from home. So since really 2009. And then in 2020, pandemic happened. So I was working out of LA for about 11 years or 12 years, and pandemic happened, and free sun, free water. We picked Florida, got the kids in an RV and drove out here. And my
Nice.
brother was in Jupiter, so it was a really cool spot. And sure enough, it was. And so we ended up actually buying a house out here in 21. And then I met you guys. Gosh, I met the Freedom Club in 22. Yep, mid 22, and then just started learning about that. Yep. And here we are. So just got licensed in Florida last, I think it was like mid year 22.
So you just got licensed in Florida mid 22. Really got started going towards the end of the year in the Freedom Club. Things are moving. You spent a lot of time prospecting, because we'll look at the last 5 months. So January you closed 1 file, February 2, March 0. And then during that time, you were prospecting. And so now in April, you closed 6. May, you're on track to close about 8.
That's right.
And June, even probably the same or better. So what changed? What did that look like the last 5-6 months?
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, well, the good news, the first part of that, Richard, is definitely. And my goal is 10 to 15.
Yeah.
June just shifted, and we'll go back to this, but I just shifted in the second gear, hiring some people. That's very scary and crazy, but we did the jump off the cliff and grow your wings, and hopefully we'll have those wings by the time we get down. But I went to the boot camp. It was a big deal. Boot camp in August was huge. And, it took a while for everything to click. When you're doing the business for 20 years or just under at that point,
Right.
the hardest part, and you hear this a lot, is unlearning everything you know. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people appreciate how hard that is to do, because it's every single day you're used to doing a thing. And then you have to literally unwind that thing and think about everything differently. But I knew when I heard you guys, the one thing that I knew why Freedom Club and MMA worked and your system worked was because when you said we have to make phone calls. And right when that clicked in with me right away. And I know, because we used to spend $100,000 a month on marketing. So that was, directly to client. And I knew when I heard it, I was like, like I knew. I was like, nope, that they're right. It's, you got to get on the phone and you got to go. You got to jam. You can't be sitting on the sidelines and waiting. And because we've seen that before, and we've seen that fail in massive ways. And so that was really good. That got us into it. And then I went to the boot camp. And then after that, a friend of mine here in Florida, he's here in the office, but on a phone call outside. He saw what we did. We made a ton of money 2021. And he was like, what do you do? Like, how do you do all this? And I showed him, and he was really stoked. And one of the things in the boot camp was, Carl started with someone that, basically needed to slap him to get him in line. And I kind of needed that too on the new system, because I was like, it's tough, it's brand new, it's a totally different thing. So we just started hitting Thor's hammer hard on and really in December. So in December we were going on a ton of meetings. So we started hitting it really in the end of November, right after Thanksgiving, hammering phone calls and meeting with agents all December, and then really all like the first half of January. And I think we met, and our conversion rate was very high. I think we met with like 30 agents, and we have 26 on our Focus 40 now. So, and those were all from then. And so now we've slowed that down, and that's
Very
really
nice.
kind of the shifting into the next gear is kind of important.
Focusing on the agents that you've already been building the relationships with. Yeah.
And then hiring someone else, another loan expert, to help, because we're getting so many leads in. Yep. So that's
so you're saying you went into a brand new market, you started calling realtors, which that's Thor's hammer. For anybody that knows the MMA, mortgage marketing animals, that's Thor's hammer. Calling realtors, setting appointments, meeting with those agents, and then following up with them post meeting. And you built your list to up to 26 qualified agents. That's huge, man.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't really, it was work. You do have to force yourself out, but it was helpful to have someone with me too sometimes. And
right.
He kind of forced me into it. Like when I didn't feel good or when I was tired, I was like, no, let's go, gotta go, can't. So it was good to have help to push you in that direction.
It's great to have that accountability partner. So tell us a little bit about your team. What's your team look like?
Yeah, now it's grown. Yeah, definitely. So Colin, the guy I'm talking to, he never did loans. So I did hear on a podcast, never hire anyone new. And I understood why. I understood why they said that, because
right.
Hiring someone new, you're just going to waste all your time trying to train someone. You don't have time for that. But what I did know about him is I knew he was a people person. He loved to be with people. And so I decided he would be the DSP manager, right? The daily success plan manager. I knew he'd really be good at that, because he's super hyper focused, super energetic, loves just to hang out with people. He's a BDR type. So, nice. So that helps me, because I'm kind of more of that introvert kind of, like more like, hey, yeah, I'm the loan officer that sits behind the desk and does the email and all that stuff. But I did learn to get out. And so that he's that person. I was lucky enough, blessed enough to have a loan expert already that I've worked with for years. She's been doing it for 30 years, and nice. She was on BIPs, so she wasn't salaried. But she's in California. She's amazing, still works with us. Processor also in California as well. And then we just hired a new loan expert here in Miami on salary. And then, of course, my wife does an amazing job helping us with like loose ends. Like, for example, we're doing some realtor flyers today with Canva and all that. So there's nice. A lot of people in the mix. And even my sister helped with database stuff. So, you know what I mean? You just get everybody involved and kind of work as a huge team. And, it doesn't sound like a lot, 6 to 10 loans, but believe it or not, with the amount of leads and the amount of stuff we're getting, it's necessary.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's going to convert a lot higher, quicker.
And you're in growth mode too.
In growth mode. Yeah. That was that shift in the second year. It's very hard. People don't I've been doing this, like I said, for 20 years, had 100 agents underneath me, but as one business owner, as one, person, it's very hard to kind of, get people in place, get them, trained, get them up to speed and going. But with the system, with Freedom Club and with MMA and the coaches, it's night and day. Yeah, it's night and day. Like you point us in the right direction and we execute and just get it done. So it really helps, but it is hard. So don't let anyone tell you. And it's not a breeze by any stretch of the imagination. Now we have people on salary, so that's scary. But
right.
but just all the more reason to work and push harder.
So if you had to do it all over again, what would be the first position you hire? Let's say you're by yourself, you're, one man band. What
Mhm.
would be that first position?
It's a really good question because I do feel strongly about the answer. And that is, it depends on who you are,
Okay.
right? So you have to really, I think, analyze yourself and know what you're good at and know what you're not. So I think that was the thing that I did. And when Colin came into my life, I realized at that point, I knew like, okay, I can't like I'm really good at loans. Like
Right.
I don't need another really good at loans person. I already have someone that I have pay on BIPs on commission, so we're not salaried. It's fine. So she gets whatever cut that I'm doing. She's helping. So I knew myself, and I knew I needed someone that was more outgoing, more willing to get out there and start moving.
Yes.
Someone who was very hungry. So for me, again, it's like I've been doing it for a while. It's like even as broke as you can get, you still need that. Sometimes that's not even enough to get the hunger. You need that hunger surrounding you to get going. So I think it's that self-analyst and understanding what do you need to fill that gap in. What needs to be in that gap that's not there.
Yes. So he's
That's where I
got
think Colin
strengths
helped.
that you don't have, and you've got strengths that he doesn't have, and you guys work well together.
That's it. Yeah, get that synergy with whoever you're working with. Hire someone that's going to be totally like filling in your shortfalls. And my
Right.
shortfalls were I'm easily distracted. I'm easily, what should I say? Like I'll cancel a meeting. I'll just be like, look, I'm tired. Let me do
Right.
that. But you need like, so I know I need that kind of push behind me. Like, no, dude, you're not going anywhere. You're going to the meeting. Like, okay,
Yeah.
and
So that accountability partner basically too.
yeah, yeah, someone
Yeah.
to keep that pressure up.
Yeah, you make a good point. Like, yes, technically it could be better if we hire someone with experience, but man, you can't put a price tag on attitude, someone that's a go-getter, someone that's driven. You've got to have that. So that trumps experience any day in my book.
I agree, and the last thing that I'll put into that is the real hunger to learn. I
Right.
love people who love to learn, and Colin was very much like that. Super hardcore. I'll listen to all the podcasts. I'll listen to all the, and the same thing with the new loan expert. Same thing. She's just like
Right.
so hardcore. I just want to learn what you're doing and what I need to do. And I think if you have those things, it's going to work. I think if you hire someone that's more like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I mean, I already have, experience with that with other people I know. They've hired
Yeah.
people. They thought they were this amazing experienced person, and that may be true, but like they're still stuck in that
Yes.
rut. So I'm very happy. Yeah, and again, I wouldn't recommend hiring new people, uh, not as a loan expert by any stretch, but I don't think you also need the 10-year, 20-year vet. You could use a 2 to 3
Agree.
year person that just has excitement and that willing to learn and execute and to do the job well.
Yeah, true.
Mhm.
So what's your favorite part of the job? So every day,
Mhm.
what gets you motivated? What gets you up and ready to go?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say going back to that, just I love learning and implementing and watch it happen.
Right.
So, like today or last week, our conversation with your coaching, you said, "Hey, you really need to get this tracking under control," and you're exactly right because we have a lot of leads coming in from a lot of different places, and it just happened that there was a on the replays, class replays, that there was a replay about tracking, and
Oh,
so
good.
it's fun to like to know that and to for example implement that, learn about how to do it, implement it, and then watch the result. So very much like gardening, right? So you plant the seed, you water it, and you watch it grow. It's like it's really cool to do that. It's really fun to see that happen. That's the
Yeah.
fun part to me. And I love, I do love working with people. Don't get me wrong on that. I love
Right.
working with people, and I love working and talking with people and having fun.
Yeah.
Talking and having fun.
I
Yeah.
don't see you as an introvert though.
Is that weird? Yeah. Well, I'm like, I was a musician since I was a kid, and
Yeah.
we sat in a room with all this equipment and tinkered with all that. And Yeah, and even when we'd go on stage, I would never go on stage, never. I'd be
Oh,
like,
wow.
I'd be behind everything. I don't want people knowing who I am, what I do.
That's funny.
Scared, scared individual. So, yeah, that was when we were younger, of course. But I'm just saying, like, yeah, no, didn't like any of that stuff.
Right, right.
And I am scared, going on appointments, and sometimes I think I'm gonna faint or whatever, and checking my pulse. I'm like, oh crap, but
So
it worked.
how do you get through that? Because a lot of people feel the same way. Like how do you get through that?
Breathing, just breathe through your nose, and maybe a prayer in the head.
Okay,
Breathe and a prayer, and a prayer is good. Always be thankful for what you have. Like
true.
I heard that one a long time ago, and it really does. I have high anxiety, and when I get anxiety, it's just pray and be thankful for what you have, and for some reason that does calm your situation down. And then like you said, learn to ask good questions, right? Like if they do all the talking, you have more breath.
Right.
So you can breathe, you don't have to pass out. You just keep on asking those questions. That frogging is a
Yes.
awesome tool even for anxiety. Let them talk, let them do the work,
Yeah,
and you can sit back and write the notes.
that's a
Yeah,
great point. Yeah, if as long as you have some questions to ask the realtor is going to talk, and you don't have to do, and you don't really want to do that much talking. It's really 75-25. You want them to talk about 75% of the time, and then you 25, and that's not how a lot of loan officers approach that. They go in, they think they have to tell them about all their programs and everything, and they end up just talking, and then the agent doesn't have a good experience.
exactly. And it's
Yeah.
fun for them. I forget who said this. It could have been Carl, it could have been you, but it was, it's, you go to a party and you ask all the questions, and you're the life of the party. Everyone thinks of you like later going, gosh, that guy
Right.
was amazing, but they have no idea who you are, what you do. You just got all the information from everybody else. So
Yep.
that does help. It does help in meetings. You're a little bit scared, and then you just kind of start asking questions, and you end up relating, and I take notes. So
Right.
they're always kind of like, what's this guy doing? I'm like, hey, I just love to remember and love to learn about what you do. And I think it was Mary in the coaching that I asked her, I said, is it weird to take notes? She goes, no, actually, if I was a realtor,
Yeah.
I'd be impressed, like, wow, like you really want to know about me,
It
huh?
shows that you care and you really want to know about them. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that.
And that's a cheating thing to do too, because I have my notes, right, with the pen. So I guess a part of my anxiety is forgetting questions. So I bring
Right.
my questions with me. I have my frog questions all
Yeah.
listed from top to bottom, and I have them right there. They don't see it, but it's a little secret, because then I can also pick and choose depending on what they're talking about.
Right.
I do feel like I do sometimes, like I can be socially awkward, because I don't know what to say, or I don't know, I forget. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting a question. As
Right.
simple as it may be, hey, write it down, bring it with you so that you can, just reference it quickly and write the answer next to it. It's like
That makes
an
sense. Yeah.
interview. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that makes a lot of sense. And it does show that you care and you're authentic. Yeah.
And ask about them. Yep, and they love that. Yep, especially when you get to the family and the friends and their activities, and don't forget to ask that, because it's easy to stick on business, but
Right.
every time I forgot that, I kick myself. I'm like, I cannot believe I forgot to ask them more about their personal life, because that's what you're going to always relate on. And in
Right.
hindsight, yeah.
Do you do any type of gifting after a meeting or
Every single time.
okay, tell me
I
about that.
don't, yeah, we have a very tight system, and that's kind of what Colin does. He's more of that DSP manager. So we have a very strict systems of campaign manager, and now that's bled into Thor's Hammer. So we have campaigns each week. So there was a podcast or a class in MMA. It was about how to become a best friend of a realtor.
Right.
What was cool about that is all I did, I pulled the car over and wrote a checklist of exactly what they were saying. I was like, this is a perfect checklist. And then we turned it into that kind of campaign tracker, like this week we're going to do this week we're going to do next. So always the first week is a gift after it's always the text, then the gift, then the review. So those happen 100% of the time, because, I've talked to a couple realtors. It's funny because they're like, I remember there was one that just said like, oh, this one guy, I remember he bought me a mug. I never forgot that, and
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and you're like kind of taken
The
back
little
by that, like
things,
it's
yeah.
just a mug. But no, it's the thought that counts, right? So we're just humans, we're just people. So imagine when someone wishes you a happy birthday, or when you get a little gift, you feel good. You're like, hey man, that's cool. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, they
Yeah.
know that you thought of them. It's that,
Yeah.
like you said,
Like
it's
you're
the thought
thinking.
behind it.
Exactly. And then I think as especially, I don't mean to diss most men, but for me as a man, I'm very bad at that stuff.
Right.
It's almost like it teaches you how to do things in your real life too. You're like, oh gosh, like, outside of work, maybe I should be, writing more handwritten notes to people I know. And maybe I should be sending them little, whatever, tchotchke you can think of to say, hey
Yeah.
man, I thought about you. And so it actually is more of a lifestyle that I think that we're all kind of learning with
It,
business, and then hopefully that will translate to personal too.
yeah. Kind of like you said earlier, just to be grateful. And that helps, becoming grateful, having that habit of being grateful. Yeah.
Totally, yeah. And I think and just like you said, that thoughtfulness. I think people really, I think it's the number one thing is people are just like, and we get like people posted on social media. So we've had people
Right.
like Instagram, like, oh my gosh, look at what these guys did for me, you know. And we love that. That feels good to us, right? Because we're like, oh, that's really cool. Got a text with a picture of our gift the other day. Hey
Nice.
guys, thank you so much. You know what I mean? Like, and that feels good to us. We're like, hey, thanks so much for even acknowledging. Some people don't even say anything, which is fine. It's totally fine. That's
Yeah.
not the goal, but you do feel really grateful when you get those things back too. And that relationship
Definitely.
starts building from there. Mhm.
Yep. Well, I'm sure that helped you go from 0 to 26 realtor relationships pretty quick.
Definitely one of the pieces of the puzzle, I
Yeah.
would say. Yeah. And it's that that money in the follow-up thing that everyone talks about. It's 100% true. There's zero money and zero follow-up. There's just no money
Right.
there. If you And even today, Richard, like you said, as my coach, you said, hey, I really want you to focus on what you have. And you're exactly right. So our new focus so when we hired the loan expert, it wasn't just because we wanted to do more loans, it was to take things off of call-in. So he can go now. So for example, we now have our goal for, as a matter of fact, after this call is to set up drop bys with some realtors. So we
Right.
need to really get out there, because it not only is, do I feel that definitely you lose the spark from the meeting, um, but it is interesting. Things wane over time, and this is no exception at all. Like I feel it, you feel it. So we're meeting with everyone in January. So now we're in May, and
Right.
interestingly enough, we had a ton of boom, 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 and then but then you start feeling that kind of wane from certain people, and so I think a lesson from that is that follow up should never stop. So
Right.
if you didn't start it, you're just, excuse my language, but screwed from the get go. But
Yep.
if you start it and then you stop, you're almost in the same position. So it's like,
It's
okay,
fast.
so follow up should be a long term. And I think the MMA talks about, the 13 weeks. So when you look at it at first, a lot of it doesn't make sense because you're like, well, I already did a 12-week follow up on the phone calls to get the meeting. But no, after the meeting, there better be a plan on the 13 weeks afterwards as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're guilty of getting too busy and not doing enough. And you feel it. That's the thing. Just so people know, listening to this,
Right.
you will feel it. I promise. And then when you start getting back on that train, you'll feel it the other way around. So we're learning that. So you learn all these things as you go through.
Yeah. It's good.
Mhm.
Good thought. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah,
So what are one or two resources that you're like, man, if it wasn't for these two things, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. What do those look like?
that's just easy, easy, easy. So it's so funny because when you're doing the business as long as we had, and so I mean, my volume, I forgot my volume was, and it was like I don't know, 70 million in 2021, something like that. I don't know, 70 million, 80 million, just by myself and an assistant
Wow.
and an
Yeah.
awesome processor. Um, and 22 just stopped. And a lot of people, they go, hey, is this as bad as 08? I'm telling you, it's worse. People don't understand that. Oh no, it's not as bad. Yes, it is. It's worse. And I'll tell you why. it's because of the way they didn't raise the rates like this. So when they raised rates, that took the money out of the people's pocket.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So people don't understand that when raising rates is just a way to drain the money out of the economy. And so when that happens, it affects everybody, but especially people in the refinance side of things. And that's where I was. So everything went from 100 to 0 like overnight. And I knew it. And
Your
it's funny
business
because
was
I
100% refi before, right?
pretty much, I mean, I would do,
Yeah.
maybe 10 purchases a year, just helping with, and then, when we're slamming maybe 15 a year, that's purchases, but we were doing, 10 to 15 refis a month. And that lasted, believe it or not, for everyone who's listening, 2003 to 2022. That's how long that run was. Even in 2008, people don't understand that market never dried up then.
Right.
People still were trying to get the money. It was a different dynamic. So to answer that question, how easy it was is, I was just blessed, lucky again, blessed to find MMA. And that there's number one, right? So MMA was absolutely number one because what I had to do, so I'm a new loan officer now. I'm not a 20-year vet. I'm a
Right.
1-year vet.
Brand new
Because
again.
yeah, it was when MMA started, that's a whole new life because now it's a completely different business. So we had to rebuild from it's exactly ground up. I don't think people understand or appreciate that enough too, is, for the people that were in the refi, and everyone's like, oh, they're going out of business. And they're exactly right. Of course, we were going out of business. There was
Or
nothing.
pivot.
Yeah, or pivot or figure it out. And MMA, I think, again, blessed to find you guys when I did and as fast as I did because, and I chose you again because of the phone calls, right? Because I knew I go, oh no, it's phone calls. That's gonna fix everything. But interestingly enough, at that point in time, I knew that was it. And then that was a complete rebuild. And it was just a focus. And then also, so people understand, it takes a long time, even with veterans like us who ran 100 agents at a time, it still took still till today. So we're talking from, July, August is when I went to boot camp. That's what was the real start, August through May. So it was like, and for me, I didn't think it'd take that long because, oh no, I'm pro, I know how to do it. Sure, yeah, whatever, buddy. Wait till you start doing it, and I was like, oh, okay, no, that's another thing, I better do it and stick to it. So that is number one. Then obviously Freedom Club is number two because I went nuts and decided even without money, I'm going to do it anyway because I needed to fast track, information and get good advice from good people that have done it before and know what they're doing, because it's easy, it's like, the one thing you have to learn is to stop thinking. You already have the information. So the way I liken Freedom Club is, as running a large, multi-million-dollar company a year back in the day, is to hire someone with that much information would cost about $20,000 to $30,000 a month.
Yeah.
Just understand by getting that lesser amount, I don't know if we want to publicize that not here, but whatever amount that is a fraction of that, you're getting people, you're getting resources that would, otherwise cost you 10 times to more, a month to get that much information. And then again, sticking with stop thinking. Don't think about it. It's already there.
Just implement it. Yeah.
Just get it done. Yeah. That now it's just how, so you're taking a huge step. Like you said, no thinking, get it done. Getting it done is a huge step on its own. Taking the thinking out of it is you've just doubled your speed, right? Because now you're not having to go, oh, I got this great idea. Let's see how it works. No, forget that. I hate to say that because we're all very smart. We all, we all have great ideas, but there's a point where you have to stop it and say, okay,
Right.
It's not me. To listen to the person that does the 10 million bucks a month, or excuse me, a year, 10 million a year. You better listen to that person fast because, you're just wasting your time if you don't.
Yeah, and it's a blueprint. Follow the blueprint. I always kind of makes me always think about, if you want to bake a cake, you need to look at a recipe, right? If you didn't have the recipe and you just try to bake a cake, it's probably not going to come out too well. But if you follow that recipe step by step, you're going to get the same result every time. And that's what I kind of compare that to.
That's exactly right.
Follow the blueprint, you're going to get the results.
And it works. And I knew it would work based on what I saw, but it was another thing to see it work was really, really cool.
Right.
That part was pretty dang amazing when you're like, oh gosh, this works. And even when we had, 15 agents, We didn't have a lot of leads coming in. The market was even frozen out here for a little while. It was tough really between October and January.
Yeah.
And then it was just the floodgates. And I kept on telling, I called my brother up. My brother and I are close, and he does his own thing. And we'd talk. I said, Nick, I could feel those. I feel the water seeping through the dam right now. I feel those little cracks happening.
There you
And
go.
then I would call him and say, nah, there's a hole in the dam. Okay, now the dam's crumbling. Okay, now the dam is gone and there's a river, coming at me. Holy smokes, So it works like that. And it's really weird, and then when the river's coming at you, now you've got, now you're in the white water trying to navigate that, yeah, but that's what happened. So it was slow in the beginning, but we knew that our seeds would grow, and then when they bloomed, it was just this overabundance of everything going on at the same time.
That's awesome, man.
Mhm.
So what advice would you give a loan officer right now out there that feels this is troubling times? What advice would you give them right now?
Mhm. Yeah, just a few things, and I think we did cover those in the sense that, don't mean to be repetitive, but quickly grasp what's working for others. Don't
Yeah.
wait. I think, what is it? The cost of inaction, COI, is going to destroy you. And it does, even to us, even doing this, you have to get perspective. Even doing this, we still have an action too. Everyone has an action. And so it's always that, like, that's the daily battle, right? Of
Right.
coming over that inaction and just doing it. And then, don't worry about perfecting it. Do it wrong first. Even, like, for example, we're having trouble with database calls. Then just do 10. Then just
Yeah.
do 15. Don't make it hard. Just do it. And then what happens is it becomes easier and easier.
And
So
consistent.
find the system that works, Richard, like you said, and like we said, and then immediately, like, don't lollygag. And I say that because I do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you look back and you go, holy smokes, if I was just doing that just 3 months ago, if I was doing that just 2 months ago, it happens on a daily basis. I'm like, man, if we just did that last week, like, what am I thinking? And so that's it. Action, just figure out what works, listen, unlearn everything, learn what works, and then just quickly implement, even if it's not perfect. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it, because you hear these words, and I get it. Everything goes in my head too. When people talk like this, I'm like, whatever, like, easy for you to say, and it's true, but it is, when you see it work, it's amazing, and
Yeah.
it's miraculous, really. You're like, wow, this, if you just follow the plan step by step and do it, it'll work. And the DSP is a daily battle. It's a daily battle. It's like, and like, there'll be days like where I miss something and I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing it today then for yesterday. It just is what it is. But that's the mindset I think you have to get into, is just make sure that you get those action items done no matter what happens, and it'll work.
Good advice. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was a lot of fun.
You're just awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and you mentioned MMA and Freedom Club, and so I'm gonna kind of put a plug in for them, that because I feel so strongly about it too, that if anybody's interested in that, they can go to dailysuccessplan.com and they can set up a free strategy call over there, dailysuccessplan.com. All right, brother. Well, thank you so much.
I got one more thing to say though, Richard.
Oh, yes, yes.
We got to plug you too, because when you said one or two things that made the change, you're in there, because that list that we got for the agents, that nothing would have worked if that didn't.
Oh, qualifiedAgentList.com. Yes.
To say that. Yeah. We got to.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah, because if that wasn't there, you can't miss any pieces of the puzzle.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. QualifiedAgentList.com. It's basically a list of up to 1,500 qualified agents. So you know exactly who to talk to, which agents are actually doing business. Yeah, that's a game changer.
It's the only way, really.
All right, man. Well, thank you. It's been an awesome pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me. It was great.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.